Hello and welcome to Painting Panzers. My name's Christian and today we're going to be taking a look at the Medbury 28mm Australian infantry from the Second World War, focused on the Pacific campaign obviously. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the review video for these were part of a Kickstarter, and they are just absolutely lovely. Probably some of the best Australian figures on the market. I will say the best Australian figures on the market. Medbury have some fantastic figures, so do check out their website. They're not available currently, as I said. It was a Kickstarter, and I believe that Kickstarter is going to be released soon in terms of people that have pledged for it. Will be getting their goodies, but I'm sure it will end up on the website soon. Anyway, enough of all of that. Let's get into how I paint a 28mm World War II Australian. So to start off with, I give my model a primer. To me, surface primer light grey, and then I use US Olive Drab for the uniform. Now you could go with a different type of green, like refractive green or a US dark green, but US Olive Drab for me seems to be the perfect pick for a sort of green jungle uniform that the Aussies would have used. So khaki is the colour I'm going to be using for the webbing. Again, you could potentially use green for the webbing as well, but for the sake of it being a 28mm model, I'm going to be using khaki just to change it up slightly. And these Aussies, just be aware, are for the later war period, so talking like 43, 44 to 45 for the jungles of the PNG, etc. Now, for any of the wooden items, I'm going to be using Flat Earth. Now, if you watched my review video of these Medbury miniatures, part of their Kickstarter, these metal Aussies, you would know that my favourite aspect of these models, not the fact that they're all just great, but my favourite aspect of the model was the Lee Enfield. The detail on this rifle is just absolutely amazing. And I also use the same colour for the handle of the bayonet, as well as his boots. So the Aussies had brown boots, not black like the Brits, so just bear that in mind. Now, black grey is what I'm going to be using for all the metal items. So as I said, this Lee Enfield is made up of a lot of detail. So just take your time and capture it all, because it's on there for a reason, and it really does make this rifle stand out compared to its competitors on the market. So yeah, make sure you do capture that with that black grey. Also do the soles of the boots in black grey, as well as the little bit of metal on the bayonet. Now, English uniform is what I'm going to be painting his canteen in. You could use any sort of colour, like a beige colour as well, or like a sort of browny green colour. It's really up to you. I think English uniform for me works really great. As well for the hat. Now, I know there might be Aussies on here and ex-service men or women that watch this that might say this colour is incorrect for Australian hats. But I don't know, the reference photos I've seen seems to be more of this sort of English uniform colour, especially once you put a bit of beige in it to wear it down a little bit. But do let me know in the comments section if you're an ex-Australian service member or you've got an Australian hat, then I'd love to hear from you. So the canteen lid is going to be painted in khaki. It's literally just like a bit of cork, I believe. It's nothing too fancy. And then for his bayonet sheath, I'm going to be using burnt umber. You can see the bayonet is made up of quite a few parts as well, which really is an awesome thing to see. So no oil and Lafmium medium, otherwise known as technical medium, is what I'm going to be using to wash my figure at a 1:1 ratio. So buy 2 pots and take half out of one and then half out of the other, and then mix the two together, and you'll get 2 pots of wash, and you'll be able to use them for years, trust me. So US Olive Drab and German Camo Beige at a 1:1 ratio is what I'm going to be using. Now you might be thinking this is very unusual for me. I normally like to go over it with the same base colour, so US Olive Drab, and then hit it with a follow-up colour, but I thought I'll try it different, a different way of doing it. I do this with my 1/72 scale toy soldiers, and it actually works really well. So this is all I'm going to be doing to the uniform, is that US Olive Drab and German Camo Beige World War II at a 1:1 ratio mixture, and just adding in a layer there, whereas I'm pretty much just painting the whole uniform again, but leaving the original base colour in the recesses. And then with that in mind, I'm going to copy the exact same technique, but using khaki and stone grey at that 1:1 ratio as well. And there's lots of cool details on these Bren pouches and the rest of the webbing. These figures from Medbury just absolutely beautiful. They're so well done. The sculpting of these figures is just top notch. If you didn't get involved in the Kickstarter, that's really a bit of a shame, but I'm sure they're going to become available once the Kickstarter and all the pledges have been sorted out. So for the rifle, I'm going to skip giving it some flat earth. I'm just going to go flat earth and orange brown, and I'm just going to scratch on that detail. And you'll see that straight away with that mixture, it's just going to start to pop. The rifle is really going to look really good. Obviously, you can use different color browns as well. Don't just keep all of the rifles looking the exact same color, because the Enfield did come in different colors. And then for the bayonet handle, I'm going to be using that same color. Now I'm just going over the rifle again in orange brown. You can see that I'm just scratching on the details, adding in those wood grains, or simulating wood grains by just scratching it on, letting the tip of my brush do all of the work, and you will just see that that rifle will just pop very nicely. Now for the rifle, I decided to go over it again with black grey, so that's the original base colour. Because the wash does darken it quite a lot, I didn't want to mix black grey and basalt grey. I thought I'll go with black grey to start off with, and I'll tidy up all the areas and make some of those really sharp bits stick out, and then I'm going to go over it with basalt grey. So ordinarily I would have mixed the two together, that black grey and basalt grey, but I thought I'm going to try something slightly different here, and I'll let you guys be the judge whether it works or not, but I'm just going to give it some basalt grey. Same with the metal part of the bayonet there as well. Now for the flesh, I like my AK Interactive light flesh, but there is like the basic flesh set or flesh set from Vallejo, that again is pretty much exactly the same as the AK paints. I just find the AK paints come off the brush just a little bit better. Then for the flesh, I'm going to be giving it a wash of Flesh Wash, so it's in the name, that Vallejo wash here. It's like a pinky red wash. I use a battered old brush that's got somewhat of a point on it. It gives me a nice pin wash of that flesh wash. Now for the hat and canteen, I'm going to be going over it in English uniform. Now I do struggle to paint the hats again to make them look good. Obviously hats, especially these bush hats, they're all going to be crinkled up and beat up and stuff, especially if you're going through the jungles and worn and sweated through and all of that. So take that into consideration. So don't have to be too crazy. You can see here I'm just adding in some lines inside of the canteen. And then I'm going English uniform and khaki grey at a 1:1 ratio, and I'm just going around the outer brim of the hat now, just to make that hat stand out. I'm using like irregular lines and stuff just to show where the folds and stuff might have been in the hat and where it might have bent at one point or another. Just use your imagination and just go with what works best for you. You can see there's no real like technique that I'm really going with here, or specific areas that I'm focusing on. Just the outer edge of the brush, of the hat, and then any of those raised areas. So now I'm going over the skin again in light flesh, and I'm just going to focus on the arms this time, because I've got lots of videos, all my previous 28mm videos focus on the faces and what I do. So you can see I'm picking out all the muscles and all the fingers of the arms and such. See, I'm picking out the thumb and the hand there, but this is just a first one, so I'm connecting it all back together. And then I'm going over the skin again with light flesh and highlight flesh at a 2:1 ratio. So this is really important that you get this mixture right. And now I'm focusing on the hand and the thumb there and scratching it in, but I'm not painting the whole hand and thumb, as well as the muscles on the arms, the fingertips. But again, I'm not connecting it now. Now I'm leaving that original base color to show like the creases in the skin. Then light flesh and highlight flesh at a 1:1 ratio. This is where it comes quite bright. So I'm just adding in a little line on top of each part of the muscle, a little line on the thumb there, a little line where your knuckles would be, so each knuckle, and then adding a little line on each finger, and he's done. So Iraqi sand is what I'm going to be using to highlight the cap of the canteen. And I just add a line on the top and a line on the bottom. And for the bayonet sheath, I'm going to use burnt umber and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio. And then I like to add a little bit of gold. Now they obviously wouldn't be gold, they would be brass, but I'm adding gold onto the belt buckle here because the brass is a little bit darker. I think gold at this scale stands out a little bit better. Also the little buttons that are on the webbing, if you can see any more, there's one on the canteen there. It would be brass. If you want to paint them in brass, by all means. I just think gold works a little bit better at this scale. And now I go over the skin with flesh wash, but there's a really important thing. Don't have too much of that wash on the brush. I'm just adding in a little tiny bit of the wash over it, so it acts as more of a glaze than a wash. And then with that drying, the last thing I do is give these shoes another go of flat earth, but don't go too crazy, because if you're like me, you're just going to end up dry brushing them with the base texture that you use anyway, and the pigments. And then there we've got our Aussie ready for the bush. Now he's going to get dirtier, but yeah, he's ready to go. So overall, this was a very fun tutorial. Probably one that's quite delayed. I think you guys have been asking for a lot of Commonwealth infantry. We've done Australians now. We've got British, lots of British on the channel. But we will focus on Canadians at some point in the not too distant future. But yeah, this Australian was awesome to paint. As I said, this was a Medbury Miniatures Kickstarter Australian, but this tutorial will work for your bolt action figures or any other 20mm or 28mm or even 15mm really. The technique in here can be can be used across those various scale sizes. But I'd love to know what you thought of this in the comment section, so don't be shy, leave me a comment. Please give me a thumbs up as well, it really would go a long way. And I'm trying to hit that 10k subscriber mark by the end of the year. So please, if you haven't subscribed and you've enjoyed this video, even remotely, please do give me a subscription. It would really mean a lot to me. I want to hit that 10k goal by the end of the year. We're on track to do it, but let's try and smash it out before the end of the year. Alright, a massive thank you must go to my Patreons and YouTube channel members. As always, you guys are bloody awesome. And I must say a huge thank you as well to my Panzer Aces. So that's Patrick, Oscar, James, Panzer Jim, Colin, Lack of Foresight Gaming, Mike, Mikey, Eric, Rothgar, Jonathan, and Ian. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you so much for being those aces. Now, if you'd like to join ranks amongst the membership program, you can do so for as little as $1 a week, and it gives you access to a few different perks and such. It would really go a long way to supporting the channel too. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it here. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section, and until then, I will catch you at the next one.